Welcome everybody, I'm IAmAMusicNerd here, back with another tier list. This time talking about one of my favorite hip-hop groups, Outkast. Got a discography over here, and I'm going to be ranking them from best to worst, so you know what the deal is. Before we get into it, if you enjoy the content of this channel, do me a favor, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button down below. We have finally reached over 800 subscribers on this channel. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support. And if you're a return subscriber, hit that notification bell to be alerted for new content to get more videos like this. Alright, so let's get into it. First album, Southern Playa Calif. It's a long ass title. But if you're an Outkast fan, what the name of the title is. So yeah, this came out in 1994. Truly a revolutionary record. Organized noise at the time. The producers favored live instrumentation and then mixing southern soul and groove and jazz, and this was at a time when the West Coast was dominating the radio, when the East Coast, Biggie, Nas were just coming around the corner. Nobody really had heard this type of, homegrown southern hip hop before, especially in Atlanta. And so this was a new type of sound that they were forging here, and of course you had to have the talent to do it. And Big Boy, Entre 3000, 19 when they made this record. I mean, just truly amazing. But this record kind of sets the template for what Outkast would do for the rest of their careers. Spacey instrumentation, groovy beats, incredible lyrics, incredible storytelling from Big Boy and Entre 3000. This was a surprise to everybody. This went platinum. Players Ball became a genuine hit. But there's other great songs here too, like Deep, Get Out, Get Up and Do Something, featuring CeeLo with a great guest verse introducing him and Goody Mob, and really a truly astounding record. Now, it does sound a little dated. I'll give it that. It's a first record. It's not going to be all the way there. Of course, they will get better lyrically and musically as the albums went on, but for kind of a debut album, really changing the face of Southern hip hop forever. This album is always going to be remembered. So, despite all his minor setbacks, I think that this is a pretty solid album from them. So I'm going to put this in the B tier. Now, next album, ATLiens. This is my personal favorite Outkast album, and I feel this is when the group really became like Outkast. Because Entre 3000, if you look at the cover, he started being more creative, started wearing turbans and wearing clothing that was, at the time for a heterosexual black man to wear, pretty out there, pretty innovative stuff. And Big Boy kind of honing into his kind of player persona. He was kind of like the straight-laced persona, the gangsta side of it, whereas the Andre 3000 is kind of like the thinking man, the artsy guy. But both chemistry is stronger than ever here. Really, why this is my favorite? I think that there's not a bad song here. Of course, we all know Elevators is the song that kind of broke them into the mainstream, became a top 20 hit, and when you listen to it, it still is an orthodox top 20 hit. Just nothing really sounds like it, but it epitomizes that southern kind of like groove, that very that sing-songy me and you, your mama and your brother. It's not an upbeat song at all. It's just kind of that type of song which just makes you want to drive slow in your car. And of course, you got Two Dope Boys in a Cadillac, ATLiens, Wheels of Steel, Jazzy Bell, The Closer. This album is just amazing to me. I would say it's like top 5 hip-hop albums to me of all time. They got minor criticism because they kind of stepped away from the player persona a little bit. They kind of made a more creative, artsy record, but the irony is that the more creative they got, the more out of the box that they got, the more popular they became. So, going back to the Source Awards, when Andre 3000 said the South has something to say, in this album, they fulfilled that prophecy to a T. And so it's hard because I do think their later albums are a little bit better, But for me, I think it's a very solid record. I'm gonna put it in the A tier. Yeah, definitely go and check out this record. I mean, obviously Stanconia and Aquaman get more of the praise, but AT Aliens is just as good as those two albums right there. So definitely check it out. So next album, Aquaman, came 2 years after AT Aliens. How can you top an album that pretty much not only put the South on the map, but raised the bar for hip hop in general? And you just make an album that's just way better than AT Aliens, I guess. This was a time where Outkast just didn't miss. Aquaman sounds a little bit different from AT Aliens. Like, I think they really got in their 70s funk bag in this one, utilizing more HBCU type instrumentation, especially on the song Spotty Iodocious, which has become a popular favorite among Outkast fans. But of course, everybody knows Rosa Parks. I mean, that's one of their most famous songs. The song that I first heard when I was a kid that got me into Outkast, Rosa Parks, not even knowing who she was at the time. But of course, this song, minor controversy because people didn't like the fact that Rosa Parks herself didn't like the fact that they were, her likeness was being used in this like party hip hop song. But other songs here like West Savannah, like Big Boy talking about where he grew up in West Savannah, Georgia, Chunky Fire, Liberation, Beautiful, 8 minutes. So that's the thing about this album. There are some long songs here. It's a very long album, but yeah, I don't know, man. Like with this type of album, the long songs don't annoy me. Like the instrumentation is lush. It's beautiful. It takes you on a trip, like a spaceship trip. Like the song, the collaboration they did with George Clinton synthesizer. I mean, it really sounds like a lost funkadelic song. I'm just in love with this album as much as a lot of people are. Really just Outkast, just outdoing themselves here. So I'm gonna put it in the S tier. A classic, a Southern hip hop classic. If you haven't heard it, is Stanconia, which again, raising the bar even more. And this was the album that just got them wide critical acclaim. Announced them as probably the preeminent Southern hip hop act in the world. Mrs. Jackson became their first #1 hit. So Fresh, So Clean got some radio play. But, you got deep cuts such as Gasoline Dreams, Spaghetti Junction, Red Velvet. Just the beat, and of course Bombs Over Baghdad. I mean, I can go on and on about this album. I think at this point, Andre and Big Boy were just so connected at the hip, even though the personas were totally different. I mean, look at the album cover. But this is probably Outkast at their most poppiest, and then they explored more with psychedelic sounds and funk sounds. But it's definitely there's a lot more pop hooks in this record. I mean, Mrs. Jackson, tons of like pop hooks that are memorable to this day. Even people that don't even know Outkast that much know the hooks on this song. Forever, forever, ever. So on. But yeah, Stanconia is a hip hop classic. It's obviously gonna go in the S tier. A masterpiece of an album. Their next album, Speaker Box, The Love Below, came out 3 years later. It's a double disc. This is their highest selling album. Went 11 times platinum. Outkast just could do no wrong at this point. You come out with Hey Ya, a song that sounds completely nothing like they've done before, and it becomes this like #1 for like 15 straight weeks. I mean, it was on the radio nonstop, TV nonstop. It was a pure pop song, no rap hooks at all, just a pure pop song. But it was so Outkast that it was unmistakably Outkast that you couldn't accuse them of selling out. It was just quirky, it's fun, you can dance to it. Then you had Big Boy with The Way You Move, with his kind of solo song on his part. Speaker Box is Big Boy's solo album. Andre 3000, The Love Below, is his solo album. And people have said that The Love Below has become a precursor to a lot of rappers embracing R&B. Igor, obviously, by Tyler the Creator, is influenced by this album. Airways and Heartbreak, Drake stuff, Kid Cudi. So Love Below touched a lot of people. It's gotten a little bit more praise than Speaker Box. And, there's this narrative that Andre 3000 is the better rapper than Big Boy, that Big Boy is kind of the slouch of the group. But Big Boy has some great raps here too. Ghetto Music, church. Big Boi is just as much of a good rapper as Andre 3000 is. Outkast was great because both of these guys are dope spitters, and by allowing each of them to have their own album, they really were able to flesh out the type of music that they were able to make. Now, of course, Andre 3000 experimented more with rock elements that kind of gotten more of, the mainstream critics' attention, but Big Boi kept it street, but he was embracing jazz and funk and all that stuff as well. So even having Patti LaBelle come on his record, so the only hindrance on this record is that it's way too long, and of course with a double album, you're gonna have some filler here and there. I don't love every song in this album like I do in previous Outkast albums, but for what it is, I think it's very solid. It got them Album of the Year, one of the few hip hop acts ever, fortunately, for the Grammys to get Album of the Year. So this album just left the mark on everybody: black, white, Latino, female, male. Everybody loved this album when it came out. So I'm going to put it in the B tier. I just think if they just cut it a little bit more, it would have been another masterpiece from them. And their last album to date, the Idlewild Soundtrack. And at this point, Outkast was kind of a group, not really. Look at the album cover. You got Big Boi in the front, Andre in the back. Just kind of teasing you, like, yeah, we're a group, but not really. We're kind of stepping our own thing in. And you kind of hear on this dynamic as well. Speaker Box Love Below, even though there were two solo albums, it was under the Outkast umbrella, and you can still feel that they were kind of still a group. But Idlewild, they were experimenting with a lot more stuff. Obviously the movie takes place in the 1930s, so they touched on a lot of Great Depression music like jazz and swing, big band music. So it's not stuff that's on my cup of tea, to be honest. I don't really quite enjoy that type of era of music. But there's still some underrated slaps here as well. Morris Brown you hear that on any HBCU band jam, that's a classic. This album has this things that it doesn't quite come together. It has a nice song, featuring Lil Wayne, Snoop Dogg. Not all of it came together for me, unfortunately, but it's still an Outkast record, and I think I'm going to put in the C tier. It's about average. If this is the last album that they make, kind of not the best way to go out. Not a bad album, but would have wished that they ended their discography on a stronger, more cohesive note. But hey, you never know. Outkast album could be in the works. But yeah, that's my tier list. Tell me what you think in the comment section. What are your best and worst Outkast albums, favorite songs? Tell me all about it in the comment below. I've done other tier lists in the past. YouTube recommends these two reviews. Check out after this one. Love you guys, as always. Peace.